Thank you so much for coming back to Random Crafts of Kindness. I'm Janelle, and this week I'm going to make this video exclusively using my MacBook. We'll see how that goes. At least I know I'm looking somewhat directly at a camera, and my eyes aren't necessarily wandering over here or wandering over there. I'm looking right at you. At least that's the goal. So this week we're going to be doing a craft that's pretty simple, not terribly time-consuming, but incredibly heartfelt and full of lots and lots of love. Okay, first, let's talk statistics. Here in the UK, about 1 in every 8 babies born are premature, and they are admitted to the neonatal intensive care units at their hospitals, also known as the NICU or the NICU. This is about 100,000 babies every year here in the United Kingdom. We have similar statistics for the United States. In 2017, approximately 1 in 10 babies were born prematurely, and we can assume that these little ones also went to the NICU at either their hospitals or were transferred to hospitals that had critical care units for infants. You probably have seen a lot of campaigns or a lot of projects where community groups come together, avid knitters, crocheters, and crafters, to create tiny baby caps for infants that are in the NICU. Why do they do this? Well, we know that heat can escape from our heads. It's critical that premature babies and babies who are ill and in the NICU stay warm. And so many people take the time to use their talents and create knitted or crocheted caps for babies, which they then donate to their local NICU units. And that's what we're going to make today, tiny baby caps. So let's talk supplies. The first thing you're going to need, of course, is some nice nubby yarn. Not too thick, but definitely not too thin, because we want to be able to make caps that have stitches that are tight together and don't cause a lot of holes or space in between. Again, the idea is to keep that nice warm heat next to the little baby's head. Second thing we're going to need is a knitting loom. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm really, really bad at knitting with two knitting sticks, but this I can go to town. This came as a set of 4 knitting looms, which I purchased on amazon.co.uk. And in this kit as well, we have a yarn needle, which we'll use at the end of the project, as well as the hook that we'll use to pull the stitches through as we create more and more loops on this loom. The last 2 materials that you'll need will be a pipe cleaner. Doesn't matter what color or what texture, but just so long as you have a nice pipe cleaner, also known as a chenille stick, that will be ideal. And then finally, this is the surprising one. You're going to need a pen like this. These have been around forever. They were around when I was a kid, and if you're anything like I was, you used to love to take these apart. We would take out the ink cartridges inside, we'd take off the end caps, we'd horse around, we'd put them back together, and so on and so forth. And we're going to do that here, and let me tell you why. Because what we're going to use is an empty shell of a Bic pen. And I'll show you why that's going to be so handy in just a few minutes. Oh, also, if you have a pair of scissors, that's probably really good too. Okay, let's get started, shall we? First thing we need to do is to thread our yarn into the empty shell of the Bic pen. And here's how we're going to do that. We're going to take our pipe cleaner and the end, the end of our yarn, like this, and we're just going to wrap the end of the yarn loosely a bit around the pipe cleaner. This really lends itself because the yarn sticks to the pipe cleaner really, really nicely, which makes it easier for us then to take the chenille stick or the pipe cleaner, put it in the bottom end of the pen at the larger opening, and just nudge this in like so. As we push the pipe cleaner in, we are also pushing in the yarn, as you can see. So it's coming out the other end. We'll pull it all the way out, and boom! Bob's your uncle. We have got our yarn threaded through the barrel of the pen. That is all set. Now, taking our knitting loop, you'll see here that we have a little knob at the end on this edge, and this is the anchor peg. Basically, it's exactly what it sounds like it is. We use this to anchor our yarn onto the loom so it won't unnecessarily unravel or anything like that. So I'm going to make a slip knot simply by taking a loop like this, taking my yarn, pulling it through loosely, and then I'm going to take that loop onto the anchor peg and pull it until it's tight. And our yarn is anchored. Our yarn is loaded, if you will, into our empty shell of a pen, and we're going to start wrapping our yarn around the 24 pegs on this loom. We wrap them behind the peg like that, wrapping it around the front once, going on to the next one, wrapping it around like that, going on to the next, and so on and so forth. Now, as you wrap them, make sure you push the yarn down like this, because we are going to be looping this yarn twice, like so. And if you'll see, this pen cartridge makes the wrapping process that much easier, and as such makes life much more grand. We're going to keep making sure we're going to push down these first loops. There we go. And they're down. And we'll keep wrapping. Wrap, down, wrap, push down, wrap, push down. We want to make sure that the loops are on the outside of our pegs here. And that's why we're wrapping it around the front and then toward the back like that. So once we have wrapped our first loop around the 24 pegs, as we have here, we are going to proceed with doing one more row on each of the pegs. Now, this is the last peg on which I wrapped the yarn. So this is going to be the first peg whose loop I'm going to pull. We're going to take the bottom loop here and pull it over the top of the peg and push that down. Next peg, take the bottom loop here, pull it over the peg and over that top loop and push that loop down. We are going to go and do this all the way around the loom. There you go. Okay, our first row is done and our yarn is officially anchored on to our loom. We're going to repeat the process. This was the last peg on which I wrapped the yarn, so it's going to be the first one that I do my hooking. So I'll take the bottom loop, pull it over the top peg, push it down. I think you've got the gist of this, so I'm going to go ahead and finish off this row, and I'm going to do about probably 7 to 10 more rows of these, and then I will come back and show you part 2 of how to make this baby hat. Okay, so as you can see, I've knitted several rows, probably 8 or 9 by this point, of our yarn on our knitting loom, and you can see it's starting to get nice and long down here. So I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to do one more row of stitches around the loom, but I'm also going to disconnect the yarn from our anchor peg because we don't need it to be holding anything still anymore. Now that that's there, I'm going to bring that yarn down here, and it'll kind of stay out of our way for a while. But we no longer have to worry about this fabric tugging and being taut against this anchor peg. So let's do one more stitch around the loom together. So we're going to now have this hat have a little rim or brim around the top. We'll bring up all of our knitted stitches up through the top here, and we are going to hook one loop, as you can see, onto a peg, just like so. Hopefully you can see that. There should be one loop that you can attach to every peg. And as I do this, you probably can get a sense of where we're going to go, what we're going to do next. The nice thing is also they're nice and loose. Ooh, nice and loose too. So they're really easy to slip over the pegs. And they're all on. Very good. So what we're going to do next, you probably guessed it, we're going to go back to the start, and we're going to take this bottom loop and simply pull it over the top. And there we have it. Our baby hat now has a nice kind of thick, fluffy little rim that's going to be at the bottom of the hat where their little foreheads are. Now, you don't have to do this, but just for the fun of it, I'm going to incorporate a second color. I'm going to incorporate this lovely purple thread. And it's really easy to do. Again, you can make your hats monochromatic with just one color, or you can make it multicolored with several different stripes going around. But I'm going to add about 5 rows of this purple yarn, and then 5 more rows of white, and then see how we are. So here's how you incorporate a second color. Again, we're going to attach this purple onto the anchor loop, starting with a slip knot and tightening it onto the anchor peg, like so. I've already loaded it onto my empty pen cartridge, and it's going to be really simple because I'm just going to start the new row like I would any other thread. Eventually we will be able to trim off the excess and or incorporate it into the knitting that we've done. But let's go ahead and start adding our purple. Hopefully you can have a good view of how this is going on. Now I wonder if any of you are thinking to yourself, why did she choose purple? Well, I have a little it's a little hidden Easter egg for those of you who are watching and maybe will catch on to it. But purple and white are the colors of a wonderful girls' youth group I used to belong to back when I was from 10 years old until I was about 20. And that youth group is called Job's Daughters International, and those were our colors. Okay, we have put the loops all the way around our loom, and we're going to just proceed with business as usual, simply by pulling the loops over the top. So we've got all of those looped on. All right, I'm going to do a few more rows of the purple, and then when we get back to the white, I'll show you how we recast on the white yarn. Okay, so now we've done 5 rows of that really pretty royal purple, and I'm going to do a few more rows of white, a few more rows of purple, and then I'm going to cap it off with a finish of white for the top. So again, as we cast on the white yarn, we're going to make a slip knot, attach it to the anchor peg, and tighten it away, and then we'll just start looping our yarn back onto the loom as we did before. And then we'll just take our hook. This is the last peg on which we wrapped yarn, so we'll pull this bottom loop, which is purple, over the... Okay, my friends, I believe we have done it. We have a really good length of our hat. We've done 5 rows of the purple, 3 more white, 3 more purple, and 3 more white on the top. And now what we have to do is cast off all of the loops on the top and finish them off. So here's what we're going to do. The white yarn is still in the barrel of the pen, and we are going to snip that off like so. I'm going to take my yarn needle and thread the yarn through and get it ready like that. So it's all good and set. And one by one, we are going to, let me move that purple yarn there. We're going to, first let's undo our anchor yarn there because we don't need that anymore. And all of these little extraneous yarns will be threaded back through into the body of the hat using the yarn needle at the end. But let's cast these off first. We're going to one by one take our yarn needle, put it through a loop on the loom, pull it off of the knob, and pull that yarn through. It looks like I've got a little bit of this extraneous yarn there done. Okay, so pull through. Let's do that again. Take the yarn needle, pull it through the loop, pull it off the peg, pull the yarn through. Because what we're doing is one by one, we're threading the yarn through each loop while taking each loop off of each of the pegs. Very last one. The hat is off. And here's where the magic happens. Are you ready? Let's push all of these extraneous threads through. We're going to take this and it's going to close the top. As we pull, it's going to close the top of the hat. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? It's perfect. Just about perfect. So making sure that that's really tight. We get rid of that hole at the top. We are now still going to take our yarn needle and the yarn and stitch it through the top of the hat several times in order to do a couple of things. A, secure the yarn. B, close that hole at the top as much as we can and incorporate this length of the yarn as well. So there's no right or wrong way to do it. Just push it through and pull it. It's going to make sure that the hole on the top of the hat is closed. Then for incorporating these guys, I'll do one as an example. Let's take our purple yarn here, thread it through our yarn needle, and it can be doing something even just as simple as taking the needle and threading it through several different purple loops throughout. And what that's going to do as you pull it through, again in no real formal way, what it's going to do is allow you to pull through, see if I can give you another angle, it's going to allow you to pull through that thread and incorporate it as best as you can, like that. And once you feel you've incorporated enough or you run out of room, you can simply trim it. And oh my goodness, we have done it. We have this sweet little hat. It's big enough for a preemie baby. It's stretchy, it's warm, it's multicolored. If it were black and white, it would almost be a perfect Dr. Seuss hat, and you could do that too. Of course, as I said, you can certainly do a cap like this with just one yarn color or a variegated yarn color where the colors fade in and out, but anything is absolutely great. Thank you so much for watching this video and doing this project with me. I had so much fun. One thing to keep in mind is that when you are doing crafts like this, if they're going to be donated to a NICU, an intensive care unit for babies, special care unit at a hospital, it's really, really important to keep all of your materials free, away from pets, absolutely away from all dog and cat fur, because we certainly wouldn't want little ones to be exposed to that and perhaps breathe that into their lungs as they are maturing and growing and getting healthy and strong. Obviously, I wouldn't make these if you have a cold as well, too. I always, once I'm done with these caps, I put them in a small Ziploc bag to keep them fresh, keep all sorts of contaminants as much as possible off of them, and then keep them nice and wrapped up. I'm Janelle. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Random Crafts of Kindness, and I'll see you soon.